Hello, everyone. My name is Denise Cordero. I am a holistic coach and soul mentor. You are tuning in to Diving Deep with Denise. This podcast intends to create a sisterhood, a tribe of women that gets to have raw and authentic conversations about all expressions of what it is to be embodied as a woman. Through the vulnerable sharing of our stories, we get to invite other women to share theirs, to be empowered, to be healed, and to boldly step into their authenticity and their truth. And today I would like to welcome a very special guest. Her name is Anna. Anna, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you for all the women who are listening.
Absolutely. So I want to give Anna a proper introduction. She empowers couples and individuals to have fulfilling and long-standing relationships. Through Anna's early childhood experiences seeing her parents, she created a story in her head that marriage was painful and nonstop conflict. Years of failed relationships and a longing for healthy long-term committed relationship were the catalyst for Anna to seek help. And so she became a student of intimate relationships, psychology, attachment theory, neurobiology, and eventually became a relationship coach. She also found real love with a great man, and they've been in a committed, growth-oriented relationship for years. Her relationship is a source of strength, support, and inspiration to continue doing this work and live her life's purpose by serving humanity. That is amazing. That is so amazing. Congratulations on achieving a loving, growth-oriented, long-term commitment in your relationship. I think that that's something that we all strive and are yearning for, especially those that don't have it. So one of the things that I read in your bio is that through your experiences and working with clients, you have found that there are certain factors that keep sort of repeating themselves as to why we struggle with relationships. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So this has been so insightful for me to like uncover and connect the dots, because I remember being very successful in my career, financially independent, and I was single and I had a history of failed relationships, and all I could see in my future was more of that. So in what I've learned is that there's some specific factors that predict whether a relationship will thrive or not. So the first one is looking at our childhood patterns. And what I mean is we all have strategies that we develop as children in order to earn love, to feel seen. And those kept us safe as children and got our needs met in most cases. But when we continue those strategies into adulthood, those no longer serve us. Like a good example would be like people pleasing. Like a lot of us were people pleasers through childhood, right?
Yes.
In order to get love from mom and from dad. And as children, that's okay. But when we carry that into adulthood, then we get into relationships that are dysfunctional. So that would be the first one, childhood patterns. The next one is any unresolved hurts from previous relationships. If we don't do the work of healing them, they will become emotional baggage that we keep carrying from relationship to relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the last one is learning relationship skills and relationship tools. Most of us did not learn any of that either in school or at home. Therefore, we don't know how to resolve conflict in a way that brings more connection. We become afraid of conflict, run away from conflict, and that's just like digging a trench that goes deeper and deeper and deeper, right?
Wow.
We don't know how to resolve resentments, how to clear resentments. Therefore, we continue carrying resentments in our relationships. And I can just go on and on and on about like the tools and the skills that are important to have in order to have a healthy relationship.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I can definitely relate to a lot of those things in myself and my own relationship. And what was coming up to me that I think would be important for, our tribe to listen to is, okay, so now you're in a relationship, you want to do the work, you want to work on the resentments, you want to have that communication, and your partner is not completely on board the same way that you are. What do you think, what is some important guidance that you can give us women when we are the ones that want to do the work and maybe our partners are not completely with us?
Yeah. I see that dynamic so often with my clients. And the two recommendations that I offer is, number one, don't try to change the other person.
Oh, that's a big one.
Right. I know it's
that is such a big one. Yes.
So don't try to change the other person, and instead model to them what you know. Okay, inspire them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump to the second one, which is like learn the skills, learn the tools that you want to learn, become that partner that you want to be, right?
Yes.
And by doing that, you will either inspire your partner to do the same, right?
Yes.
Or you may grow out of that relationship. Who knows? But treat your partner as your teacher for your own growth. Inspire them. Like maybe at some point have the conversation like, hey honey, are you okay the way we repair after conflict? Do you think we fight fairly? And kind of like plant those seeds. No one likes to be changed. When our partners try to change us, we feel rejected. We feel like something is wrong with us. So instead, model and inspire.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, the other topic that I was like, I can't wait to talk to Anna and ask her these questions is, so I understand that when you are in a committed relationship and you love someone, that relationship or love itself goes through different stages. The initial stages of love is this very obviously biochemically active period of that in love, euphoric feeling where you put your partner on a pedestal and they are the best of the best and can do no wrong. And I mean, I could, over the centuries and probably millennia, poetry has been written about the sensation, the feeling of this particular stage of love. And then relationships mature, eventually, hopefully mature and go through other stages of love and understanding. And I think that when you get to that middle part, it gets kind of icky and kind of like, what the hell was I thinking of? Would you be able to offer a better understanding of what those stages are like, and how do you navigate them so that you can continue to choose your partner and grow with them?
Yeah, that was so well said, Denise. I appreciate how you describe it. So yeah, there are stages, and what you describe as that chemical rush, the love hormones are kicking in.
Yeah.
We put our partners on a pedestal. That is the first stage of a relationship,
Yes.
and I call it infatuation.
Yes.
Right? And it is there for a reason. So don't make it wrong. Don't push it away. Enjoy it for as long as it lasts, because it's not going to come back. And it has a reason to be there. It's actually there. It's nature's way of continuing procreation, whether you're still able to have children, whether you want children or not. It's just nature's way of continue to procreate the species.
Okay.
And that stage can last anywhere from a couple months to a year or 2 years. And then the next stage kicks in, which is when, like, obviously those hormones, the dopamine, serotonin, they don't last forever. At some point, our bodies start reducing, tapering down the production of the love hormones.
Yes.
And then that's when things get real. That's where we bring down our partners from the pedestal, and we start seeing our partners as normal human beings with things that we like and things that we don't like.
Oh yeah. You said it nicely. You said coming down from the pedestal. Sometimes I think they crash down from the pedestal. Yes. And you're like, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah, like especially like couples moving together, that's when that infatuation, just as you said, just like moves really fast from infatuation to the next stage, which is I call it the challenge state, right?
Yes.
Because then conflict happens. Then we see the things we don't like about our partner. And as you said, like a lot of relationships, if they don't have the capacity to get through this stage, this is where when most relationships end.
Right.
And this is where relationship skills, relationship tools are important to be able to resolve conflict. It's so important. A lot of people who don't know how to resolve conflict, they get afraid of conflict. So either they run away or they fight. That's how they get through conflict. And to be able to fight fair, to be able to repair after conflict, those are ways to actually deepening in the relationship and create more intimacy when you know how to repair conflict effectively. Okay. The next one is to be able to see our partners as our teachers. They are mirrors of ourselves. If I start blaming my partner for something I don't like, chances are is because I don't want to be accountable and I don't want to look at my own stuff.
Wow, that's a big one.
And when I can see that the things that I judge about my partner are actually parts of myself that I want to reject and push away. Right? That's when things get hard. When I can see that the things that I reject in my partner are actually parts of myself that when I own them, when I can look at my own shadow, then I become more whole. Then I become more accepting of my partner.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what we want to do. That's, all of us that are on this journey of personal growth, and self-awareness and elevating our consciousness, we look to, as challenging as it is, because it is difficult, as
Yeah.
challenging as it is, we want to take these opportunities that are being shown to us to say, there's some work that I need to do on myself. There's more things that I need to work on that maybe I hadn't realized. And like you said, what a beautiful opportunity to see our partners as teachers that are mirroring things for us. And maybe some shadow work is probably, at play there, where we can deepen our own understanding of ourselves, or maybe some, unhealed wounds that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the third stage of a relationship is what I call like the true love, which is being able to see my partner and love my partner as he is without trying to change anything. And in return, I do that for myself as well. And therefore that is real love, to be able to love someone as they are. And that's where relationships like moving to this place of like care and support for each other, and you're together in the long run, and that creates just a lot of safety. And that's how relationships can last for a long time.
That's beautiful. Thanks. Thank you so much. I think that was a perfect segue into the other part of love. So we can see the different stages, sort of the longitudinal journey of love, and how it changes, and how it evolves and it grows. But what would you say about answering the question, how do I know that I'm really in love, or that I love this person, versus the feelings that I have are an attachment from an old wound? How can you tell the difference?
That is a great question. And I love that you answer that, because that's been coming up for me just in different communities.
Yes.
Right. So when we are loving someone from a wound, that kind of love feels fearful. It feels uncertain. It feels ungrounded. It feels like that love is here, but if the love is not here, like let's say my partner doesn't call me in 2 days, I start feeling all nervous and anxious. And so that those are some qualities, those are some signs that love is coming from a place of wound, where I'm expecting the other person to rescue me, to rescue that part of myself that I have not healed.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, it feels scary, it feels uncertain, it feels ungrounded.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And when it's real, when you're in love with someone, again, you can see their perfections and imperfections, and you still love them. And that love feels certain, feels grounded, it feels safe.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I think that, believe it or not, in my community and the people that I serve, many women that it has come up quite a bit. It's like this question of, how do I know that it's real love? Because of the fact that, you have these intense feelings for that other person, but it's like a roller coaster where it's like, it's great for some time and it's intense and it's wonderful. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, what's wrong with this person? And there's jealousy and uncertainty. And like you said, it feels very ungrounded. It's like any small occurrence that happens, all of a sudden it feels like the rug has just been pulled right under your feet. And it's like, oh my God, what is happening? What am I going to lose this person? And there's this just constant anxiety and fear of what's going to happen, what's going to happen. Are we really going to be together, not be together type of thing. And it is just, it doesn't feel good at all, but it's so confusing and disorienting, because there's this pull and this strong attraction towards that person. It feels like I can't let this person go. It's very intense.
Yeah. Yeah. You describe it so well. That
Yeah.
is how it looks like, and that's how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I love that you were able, like side by side, like this is true love and this isn't, so that um, you know, any of our sisters and women out there that may be experiencing this, um, have something to sort of reflect and have some answers to some of the questions and some of the feelings or experiences that they're having in these types of relationships, which is wonderful. So thank you for that. Can you take us back to your earlier years and your parents and how they modeled relationship and love for you? I think it's so important because for all of us, our early childhood experiences, our first models are mom and dad, for those of us that had both parents, right? Or mom or dad. Because sometimes the absence of having a parent also informs our identity and how we are in our relationships down the line as well. And so those earlier models really start taking shape and affecting, again, those love relationships later on in life. Can you tell us about some of your experiences in your earlier years?
Yeah, definitely. Because I agree with you. Those early experiences shape who we become later on in life. And
Yes.
in my personal experience, I was a year and a half when my older sister died. So my mom, in her way to cope with grief, she handed me off to a nanny who took care of me 24/7 for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
So at a very early stage, I experienced abandonment like twice. Like my older sister is gone, and now my mother is gone. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a deep, deep abandonment wound that I had to heal so that I could have healthy relationships, and not just romantic, but just all sorts of relationships.
Yeah.
And then because of what my mom went through, all the suffering and not really having any support system or professional help available, my mom developed a mental illness, and my mom had, for most of my life, had like the traits of narcissism without like being diagnosed as narcissistic. So I had a very challenging relationship with her, where there was codependency because my mom never mature enough to become an adult. So I was the adult at 5 years old, 6 years old. So we had this very codependent relationship that was also a mesh, because all I wanted was for my mom to love me.
Excuse me.
And she was not capable to do it in the way that I wanted, right? So that just created like a lot of challenges for me growing up. And even when I was in my teens, that just
I apologize. Oh my God, like I have a tickle in my throat. I think I'm gonna be okay.
okay. Let
Let's
let me
pause
know
for
if
a
you need it.
second.
Yeah. So imagine how, like, me growing up, I became a perfectionist as a way to earn love from my mom. I became just really, really dedicated to school and getting good grades, because that was a way to get attention and try to earn love from my mom. So fast forward, like all of this, once I connected the dots of like all of this, is that I realized why I had such a challenge having a long-term relationship, because I had like all these patterns, all these fears, wounds that I would bring into a relationship, and that actually had me picking partners who mirror where I was. So yeah, that's the best way to describe it. And what I'm grateful about all of that is that once I was able to integrate and heal, I realized that my purpose all along, since I was very, very little, was to help people. It started with wanting to help my mom, and now it's like wanting to help people as a relationship coach. And this is my purpose, this is my calling.
How beautiful. There was something that you said, Anna, that really, really touched me and gave me this beautiful insight, because perfectionism is a pattern or mode of behavior that I come back to in my own life. So when I am acting in ways that are perfectionistic, I'm like, okay, I don't need to do that. There's no need for that. And what I learned from that behavior for myself was this feeling of not being worthy, like not being enough. And just hearing you about your own perfectionism and how that related to wanting to get attention and wanting that love and affection that you needed from your mom, now kind of begins to make sense for me, believe it or not, after so long, and how how I wanted that from her as well. That was never a concern or a question with my dad, but definitely with my mom. And so I thank you, because this is the beauty of this and having these conversations, because just like a light bulb went on, and I'm like, wow, that's such a beautiful insight. I feel that others will be listening and saying, yeah, that makes sense to me. That I never thought of it that way, but now I see it differently. And so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to sort of segue into the second part of our podcast, and it's sort of this diving deep into some questions. One of them that, and I like to ask, I pretty much like to ask all of my guests. So the first one is, we have an understanding that lessons begin to repeat themselves until we have learned them. And it's never really fun, right? It's like learning the hard way. Can you tell us about a lesson that has repeated over and over in your life that you had to learn the hard way?
Yeah. So one of them is I realized that at some point in my life, like around my 30s, I was attracting emotionally unavailable men. And it was one after another after another. And I was like, wait, why? When is this gonna stop? What am I doing wrong? Do I have a bad picker? What is it, right? And when I sat down with that, I realized that I was emotionally unavailable. I was afraid of having my heart broken because in my mid-20s, I fell madly in love with a man who had an affair and broke my heart. And I didn't want that to happen again. So I was afraid of falling in love. I was afraid of having my heart broken. I had the abandonment wound, so I was afraid of being abandoned. And all these things really made me emotionally unavailable. That's why I kept attracting that as a mirror to learn that lesson, to do the work that I needed to do so that I was emotionally available and ready to fall in love again.
Yeah. That's a really, really great one, and another one that I can relate to. And I think one of the important things to, to even add to that, it's that it's so important for us, and I come back to this again, to treat ourselves with love and kindness and non-judgment in the process of reflection and growing and healing. And I say this because for myself personally, when I went through that, is like my picker like completely off. What is wrong with all these men? There was a lot of blaming. There's a lot of blaming about how they were not good enough, how I wasn't good enough. And I even got to to a point, to a really dark place where I felt I was broken. I was unlovable. I had a lot of doubt in myself. And I'm like, I'm just unlovable and I'm broken and no one is ever going to love me, or no one is, going to fulfill this need or want. And it wasn't until I really truly worked on myself and came from a place of wholeness and saw myself as whole that I was able to attract the right partner. And it was like night and day, night and day. But I think that as women, we just place so much burden and so much, a lot of like, it's self-flagellation, It's like
Yeah.
mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa. It's like we are wrong, we're not lovable, we're broken, we're not good enough type of thing, instead of seeing it from a place of, no, I am all those things. Like innately, I am worthy and I am enough. And this is my birthright. But obviously, there are some wounds there. There are some things that I need to look at within myself, and that they can heal. I can get better. I can get to that place where I can attract the right partner.
Yes.
And I can love and receive love.
Yes.
And I think that learning to receive love is also just as important, because we can get in our own way and block ourselves from receiving love when it's there.
True.
Yeah. So I want to say, what is the hardest thing that you ever had to do in your life? And, how did you overcome it?
So I was 33 years old, and I had a psychotic episode, and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And because my mom also had mental health issues and had a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, it was very easy for the doctors to say, well, you have it in your genes, so you have bipolar disorder. And I remember asking the doctors, well, okay, well, what do I need to do to heal it? And they said, well, there's nothing you can do. It's an illness that it's incurable. So from that day forward, I've been on a journey to find a cure for myself. And I've had a number of other psychotic episodes after that, hospitalizations, and I really have been relentless in my search for answers and a search for a cure.
That is amazing. How do you feel today?
I feel a lot of gratitude because I found a doctor who has been helping me in remarkable ways, and I'm finding that healing that I've been wanting for so long, and just finding answers along the way, such as all the trauma that I experienced as a child is a precondition to develop a mental illness, which not a lot of doctors in the Western medicine world talk about, but that's really at the core. And I've been doing a lot of work with learning how to shift the perceptions in my mind that actually cause that chemical imbalance that triggers psychotic episodes and bipolar disorder. And that's the really amazing work that I've been doing recently. So
that's great. So what I understand you're saying that's truly important is that if you are seeking help, if you are seeking support, and at first you don't receive that, or it is not aligned with what you want, that you shouldn't stop, that you should continue to persist until you find the answers, and that it's super important to advocate for yourself, to advocate for your health, for your wellness, because no one's going to care about it more than you do.
Yeah. And the idea that, I mean, I've been on this journey for 17 years, seeking answers. And part of that journey, at some point, I talked to shamans, I talked to a medical medium, and they all had a very consistent message, which was, you need to live your life's purpose. Otherwise, you will continue to get back into like this cycle of like the episodes and all of that. So I really took that to heart, and that's when I realized that my purpose is to help people. And I made the changes in my life to follow that purpose, because when we don't, our body is going to give us signs, is going to give us feedback in different ways. And you probably have
Yeah.
experienced that, where if we don't listen to the feedback from our body, it's just going to keep becoming louder and louder and louder. So the best part of all of this has been me aligning my life with my purpose and live my purpose.
I think that's so important. And it speaks to a lot of the work that I do myself. I support women to be aligned with their life's purpose, coming from a place that for many, many, many years, basically several decades, almost half of my life, did what I thought was expected of me, or expectations that I placed on myself. And so you are living for something else, you are living for someone else. And like you said, your body tells you, something stops you in your tracks. You have some type of crisis, whether it's an identity crisis, a health crisis, but something that kind of stops you dead in your tracks and shakes you to your core, so that you can realign and readjust and start asking some really deep, tough questions. And a lot of unanswered assumptions that we live through in our life, in order so that we can gain clarity of where we're supposed to be, what is our true path. And hopefully through this work that we're doing, we can help women before they have that crisis, before it becomes too late, before it feels like your work almost becomes about backtracking and undoing and shedding and taking, pulling away those parts, so that you can get to the core of your truth.
Yeah.
Which is great. The other wisdom that you shared, that I just want to extrapolate for a little bit, which is important as well, is to not be afraid to go outside of convention or conventional medicine in order to seek the answers. And, I say this as someone that had a career for over 2 decades in traditional healthcare. And I personally have chosen to take a more integrative approach to healthcare. It is not to discount, that Western medicine has its use for certain things. But I'm like profoundly shocked that we look at Western medicine as the gold standard, when we have these Eastern modalities that are thousands of years old, And we're talking about this as the new medicine, right? When it's been around for so long, and that there is so much wisdom and there's so much knowledge there. And we just need to open up our scope of knowledge, understanding, perception, and embrace those things, because we may, very well find those answers in that ancient medicine for ourselves. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes. So my other question is, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? What do you want people to remember you for?
So I am on a mission to create a better world.
Yeah.
And one way is through healthy relationships.
Yeah, it's part of who we are. I mean, it's we can't survive without them.
Yeah. And it's from the kid in the playground that shoots his classmates to all the way to wars between countries.
Yeah, yeah. What inspires you, Anna?
Sharing life with my partner. Yeah. Watching him, watching who I become. The other day I look at him, and I mean, we've been together for 5 years. And I look at him and I look at him in the eyes and I said, thank you for loving me. Because to feel love by another human being with that depth of love and care and tenderness and fire and all of that, to see his love for me reflected in his eyes, inspires me, gets me going every day.
I see that. I mean, like you just light up when you talk about that. And it's so beautiful to see, to walk in that light and to walk in that love and to experience it and to have it. It's a beautiful thing. And it's like I said, from the beginning of our session, it's like what we strive for if we don't have it. And if we do, we embrace it and we hold it and we grow with it. So hashtag relationship goals. Yeah, yes, yes, yes. So Anna, do you have any last thoughts or message that you want to leave with our sisterhood?
Well, I want them to know that the relationship that they want, even if it means a relationship with themselves, it is possible. It exists if they're willing to do their work.
That's awesome. Yes, I think that's the important part. We have to do the work. Yeah, and it's not always easy, but so worthwhile.
Yeah. And all the things that are worth in life require work.
Yeah, truth, truth, truth. So how can our audience get in contact with you if they need any type of relationship work, relationship advice, want to connect with you, ask you more questions, go deeper with you? Um, Give us your deets.
Yeah. So the best way to find me is through my website, and that is www.annaruiz.life, and that is spelled ANARUIZ.LIFE. And coming through my website, you can see where you can contact me if you want to ask specific questions. I have a blog section where I like to write about relationships.
Awesome.
Yeah, very soon I'll have resources and recordings, like short recordings with tools and tips and advice. And you can also go ahead and set up, schedule a free clarity session with me where
Nice.
we will meet for an hour and I will ask you questions to help you get clear about the results that you want, where you have been, and share with you a roadmap to get there. So that is free, and you can schedule that through my website as well.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on here and being a part of this podcast, which I see as a bigger, larger tribe and community of women. Thank you for sharing your gifts and your journey and your authenticity with us. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Well, thank you so much, Denise. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. All your great questions, and thanks everyone who's listening. And I hope there's something here that serves you in your journey.
Thanks. So everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Diving Deep with Denise. Please like and share and help our community grow. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. So wherever you may be tuning in, listening, or watching, we'd love to have you be a part of our community. Thank you so much. And until next time.